Hey everybody, this is Brandon Cobb with the House Buying Guys. I have here the individuals I've selected to be a part of an expert panel, guys that I highly respect and I think are the best in their field, in this specific niche. And what I want to cover today is lending in real estate. It's something that's mildly overlooked. A lot of people think real estate and they think rental properties, they think fix and flip, apartment complexes, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. And there's really this hidden gem of lending that a lot of people don't realize is a huge way to invest in real estate and leverage other people's time and money and resources in order to generate a passive income and grow your portfolios tax-free. So I want to shed a little bit of light, and I have assembled here the team that is everybody that you would need to know if getting into real estate and not doing a lot of work seems attractive to you. So the way I want to kick things off is just introduce each person, and I'll start. My name is Brandon Cobb. I own the House Buying Guys. We're a fix and flip company. We do 40 to 50 residential fix and flip projects a year. Currently this year, we'll probably purchase and sell about $7.5 million worth of real estate, and I'm always looking for unique ways to add values to others, which is why I'm here. Will, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name's William Wood. I am currently a hard money lender in the Nashville and Middle Tennessee area. I started in real estate in around June of 2009, full-time since then. Started out primarily as a renovator. So I was rehabbing properties, doing full gut down to the studs renovations. That while I was doing that, I started doing some smaller hard money loans. I also started doing new construction. I sold my last new construction project it was February of 2016. And since then have been about 95% hard money lending. I do pick up a few rentals and do a few JV partnership agreements here and there, but primarily hard money lending. I've built and renovated about 50 to 60 homes, owned about a dozen rentals, and funded close to 300 deals over the past 11 years.
We'll go let Chuck go next. Chuck, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Chuck Wilson. I'm with Sherrod CPA office. We're in the greater Nashville market. We're just north of the city. I live in the Nashville proper area. Been in the accounting profession business, became a CPA, I hate to say this, probably 30 years ago. So I was a practicing CPA for many, many years. I left the public practice and was the CFO of an international manufacturing company. We had offices all over the world. I did that for about 15 or 20 years. And then about 3 years ago, I got the itch to get back into the public accounting world. So part of a small firm. We have about 15 professionals in our office, and we generally focus in the real estate market. And I'm also a real estate investor like so many of us.
Awesome.
And excited about being part of this group. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to have you, Chuck. Edwin, you want to go next?
Sure. So my name is Edwin Kelly, and I am CEO and founder of Specialized Trust Company. What exactly is a trust company? Well, we are a licensed financial institution. We are what's called a self-directed retirement account custodian. So if you ever heard about self-directed IRAs, to use a self-directed IRA to invest your retirement account or your retirement money in all kinds of things like real estate, right? You need a specialized custodian, hence the name, right? Real clever. And that's what we do. So we allow clients in all 50 states to open up accounts, transfer money into those accounts. We'll get into how all that works, and then they can invest that money. They can self-direct it, right, into anything that the government allows. And the number one thing that we see clients using their self-directed retirement accounts for today is real estate. So that's the role we play in all of this.
Nice. So you guys help people take their money out of a traditional 401k or self-directed IRA and then transfer it over into a self-directed IRA.
Yeah, we get the straight jackets off, we remove the handcuffs, and we give people access, right, to their money.
Okay, fantastic. Nice to have you, Edwin. Nick, did you get all set up here?
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Do you want to introduce yourself next?
Hey, I'm the guy that can't work technology. Nick Harris, the attorney with Concord Title. We've been closing Brandon's deals for a while. Closed lots of investor deals around here. So it's great to be here.
Hey, nice to have you, man. The way I want to do this discussion, I've got a list of questions for each person in their respective fields. We're kind of going to do a round robin. Chuck, the first question is for you, and I might have Will kind of pipe in on this. What does it mean to be a private money partner?
In a nutshell, you are just acting as a lender for real estate investors, and you're generally financing money on a short-term basis. I will yield to Will more so on this because I understand he's truly an expert in the lending.
Yeah. Will, do you want to add anything to that?
I would just say there's a differentiation between a private money partner and a private money, lender and a hard money lender. So a partner would actually have, take on, they might get an equity portion of the profit. They also may take on a risk of the loss of money. A private money lender is usually just an individual who may have a little bit of excess cash, and they will lend it to a real estate investor. Sometimes they will have the money available, sometimes they won't. And usually they're limited to a certain amount that they have available. Usually they're doing maybe one or two deals at a time. Whereas like myself as a hard money lender, I'm currently I have about 30 loans out right now, and I'm constantly working, a pipeline. This is my full-time 40, 60 plus hour a week job. And I'm a little bit more probably technical and attuned to the risk and the needs and maybe a little bit more attentive to the real estate investors need to quickly move. Not that a private money lender or private money partner wouldn't be, but being that I've been in the business, I live, eat, sleep, and breathe the other side of essentially the transaction that you're doing, which is the buying and renovating side.
Yeah, you're a professional lender, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. Next question is for you, Will. Why do investors need hard money lenders or private money lenders?
A multitude of reasons. There are some really fantastic renovators who have decided to scale their business just like you guys have, that use me and hard money lenders, private money, for a multitude of reasons that don't have anything to do with not being able to get a bank loan. It has everything to do with speed, ease, and knowing that you've got some flexibility to do a lot of different projects that maybe banks don't normally like to fund. You and I, for example, we know what ugly houses can turn into through your renovation process, and we can see through the clutter, the junk, the 70-year-old, 100-year-old home. We can take a burnout and envision the future beautiful house that you guys make it into. So I would say that is the primary reason, is probably speed and flexibility of the deals that I'll fund versus what a bank will fund. Usually banks like pretty houses that have been fixed up, and if they're going to be investment houses, they've already got cash flow to them, and they just can't wrap their head around taking a house that needs $90,000 worth of work that's beat up and that's not cash flowing. It doesn't compute with them. It's just not their business model. In some cases, I lend to people, and again, this doesn't reflect you and your business. Some people have good deals, but they don't have great credit and they don't have great income. So they can hunt down a great deal and they can conduct the turnaround, but there's no way in the world they could go to a bank, even if banks would fund a renovation, because maybe their income is sporadic and the bank doesn't really trust that sporadic income. Maybe they're a rehabber, maybe they're a realtor, maybe they have some other sales commission job where their income ebbs and flows. And, sometimes they have credit issues or challenges. In 300 loans that I've funded, I've never checked credit because the deal has to support itself. But again, a bank can't wrap their head around that. They have a minimum credit score checkbox that they need checked off. Whereas I'm looking at the deal and saying, you know, and I tell all my borrowers this worst case scenario, you know, if you default and you can't refinance or sell it and you default, then, you know, you got to know up front that the worst case scenario is foreclosure and you'll lose the house, you'll lose the down payment. So they all understand that. And I've had to do that very few times because I really vet my clients and I vet the deals. And I even try to protect my clients from the bad deals. Whereas if they look at one and maybe they've underestimated repairs or overestimated the after repair value. So there's a lot of reasons, you know, why investors need private money lenders. Credit challenges, income challenges, you know, can't get bank loans, need to close quickly. You know, you need to close in a week. You know, I know there's been many a times, I mean, you guys are pretty good about giving me a heads up. But in many cases, you know, I get a call and they need to close in 3 to 5 days. You're not going to get a closing from a bank that quickly.
Yeah, we live in a world where in our business, it's all about providing value to motivated sellers, and we got to close these things fast in order to serve them. We can't do that with a bank.
Exactly. And that's the best way for you to get the best price, is to be able to offer a quick closing. And so when I can offer that, essentially you feel secure in being able to make a strong offer of a quick close.
Yep. I like it. Love it. Edwin, the next question is for you. What if I am thinking about lending in real estate, what sources of funds can I invest with?
So when it comes to retirement accounts, you can invest with any type of retirement account. So people are familiar with IRAs, traditional and Roths, but you can also invest with what we call small business retirement plans, SEPs, Simples, solo 401ks. And then there's also tax advantage savings accounts, education savings accounts for the kids or grandkids, health savings accounts. All of those accounts can be used to invest in real estate transactions. What makes that possible is the custodian that holds it. So as an example, most people have what I call a plain vanilla IRA. It's held at a bank or brokerage. If you were to say, hey, I want to invest in real estate, or invest in Brandon's project, they're going to say, no, you can't do that. And what they really mean is you can't do that with them. So when you have a self-directed retirement account custodian, that custodian, if you say, hey, I want to invest in a project, or I want to lend money to an investor, they're going to say, no problem. That's what we process here, right? And so it's really the financial institution that holds the retirement account that determines what you can invest in. But any type of an account you have, so long as it's held as a self-directed custodian, can be invested in a real estate transaction.
Gotcha. And I know we raise funds from people who have CDs that are paying 2%, or just cold hard cash in the bank too. If you've got money that's just sitting on it, eating away at inflation, that may be a great source to generate some passive income for you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Edwin. Next question is for Will. How long is my money invested?
I think that really depends upon, obviously, the borrower's project. So I myself haven't been able to justify for the client for them to be able to borrow money from me for new construction purposes. It's too much capital for too long of a time. So you take the massive capital times the interest rate times a longer construction time frame, and it's just too much interest that eats into the borrower's capital, into the borrower's profit. So not that I wouldn't, now if you're going to do a new construction, then you want to be quick about it, and if you're building a small home and you've got lots of boots on the ground all day, every day, then, private money, hard money can still work, and you can still be very profitable if you buy into deep equity and, buy the right property at the right price. Generally speaking, loans are 6 months. I've, in specialized situations, I've increased the fee or the terms to go to a 9-month or 12-month if it's a very large project, and I and the borrower have talked through it and it all makes sense. But generally it's 6 months. I like to tell anyone who's thinking about lending money on real estate projects that it's an art, not a science. There is some there are some guidelines and there's some estimates. You know, contractors, Brandon, your subcontractors could be delayed, materials could be delayed, you could have inspection delays, you can have weather, you can have an end buyer who's buying your property under contract, and 3 days before the closing they go out and, you know, purchase a bunch of furniture and a new car, and it wrecks their credit pool right before they close on it. So all of these things can happen, and all of a sudden, a borrower of mine was going to close their loan and pay me back in 5 months, and then the contract, you know, fell out. Got to put it back on the market. It goes, you know, it takes another 2 months to get it under contract, and another month, and now they're 8 months out, not 6 months. So, you know, you need to only be lending money that you don't need back. I would say within, say, 6 to 12 months is probably a good time frame.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It all depends on the deals you're doing and, you know, who you're working with. If, you know, you got like an apartment deal, some of those might take longer. Some could take years, where if, you know, you're looking at someone who's doing a fix and flip project who's really good, it might only take, you know, 3 to 5 months.
Yeah, and it's highly dependent, like you said, on who you're lending to as well. If you're lending to, you know, a brand new, a novice, I've had guys that, you know, have borrowed money, they're brand new, and, you know, I tell them time is money, and you really have to get moving every single day. You've got to have progress on your property, and, you know, we'll go 2, 3, 4 months, and they've made very little to no progress. And then there's other guys, you know, you guys are great at the speed, and you understand the time value of money and turning it, and the opportunity cost in having your money locked up in house A when you want to get your capital and your profit out and move to house B. You know, you guys are, you know, normally renovating houses in 2 or 3 months, you know, and then by the time you put it on the market and close it, you know, it's usually 6 months or less.
Yeah. Yep. Fantastic. Let's see. Next question is for Nick. As a lender, am I responsible for anything other than funding the deal?
Yeah. So, you know, it starts in the beginning, like William was just talking about, trying to figure out how long you want to loan the money. So your responsibility as lender in the beginning is to work with that buyer to come up with the terms. So you're going to discuss the amount of the loan, the interest rate on the loan, the length of the loan, the paying back of the loan. You are going to work that out together. And then once that's done, either us or a lot of lenders have their own attorneys prepare a promissory note. So you got a responsibility to get that promissory note, review the promissory note, make sure it looks right, and then sign it. And also, what goes along with that note is a deed of trust, which in Tennessee, other states call it a mortgage, but that's what secures your money to that property. My closings, I call the deed of trust the don't pay, don't stay document. So if that buyer or that lender stops paying, that's your golden ticket to foreclose and sell the property and get your money back. That's also how your money stays secure. So it's not just floating out there somewhere. You know, once you lend on that property, we record that deed of trust, so your money's always protected.
Yeah, you guys are the ones who make sure the transaction is done correctly, everything's secured, and their money's secured to that asset.
Correct. Once that's done, you know, once the construction's complete or whatever, and the buyer sells it, it goes under contract, you're going to have responsibility then to talk to the title company to give a payoff. We reach out with a payoff letter or payoff request. You'll send that payoff in, send us wiring instructions, and once it closes, then we'll wire that money directly to you. And then your last responsibility will be to release that deed of trust, so that now that house is free and clear of your lien or your loan, and on to the next person. Again, we can prepare that release. A lot of people have their own attorneys. It's not a rocket science document. So once you do one, you've probably got one there that we'll cut and paste. We'll take care of it. But you do have to record it. You are required to in a certain amount of time, or you could get fines, but you know, you got to release that lien.
So in a nutshell, they're basically in charge of making sure they negotiate their terms up front, the length of the note, the amount of money that's going to be invested, wiring the money to you guys. Then on the back end, when they get their money, signing that lien release. That way, the property can actually be sold because their money has been pulled out of it.
Yep, correct.
Perfect.
And it's important for us to get that money. You know, day before closing would be great. You know, day of closing if it's earlier in the day. And the documents the same way. The quicker we can have those documents approved and ready to roll, it's going to be easier for us on the front end. You know, anytime you get documents as you're running into the closing table, that's kind of when mistakes happen. So anything you can do on the front end is beneficial.
Great. Thanks for that. That was a well thought out answer. Chuck, next question.
We deal with it all the time, so.
Yeah, I know. I know personally, I need to get better about wiring y'all money sooner. A lot of our deals, y'all do a phenomenal job of putting up with me sometimes. Next question is for Chuck. If I'm lending money to someone on real estate, what are the tax implications for lending?
Well, that's kind of a complicated answer. It depends, as we've been saying for this entire call. It depends upon the transaction. If it's simply a loan transaction, the income that the lender receives is interest income, just like interest on your bank account at Bank of America. And the tax rate there would be anywhere from 0 up to 37%. The highest tax bracket is 37%. If you leave some skin in the game and you participate in the gains and the losses on top of the interest income, some of the profit could be classified as a capital gain. Now, again, depending upon the bracket, normally capital gain rates are at 15%, but when you get to a very high level, the capital gain rate become 20%. And then if you get to an even higher level, the capital gains rate are 23.8%. So anywhere from 0 to 23.8%. So again, it depends upon the transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So it just depends on what your current income is, and you're going to be taxed according to your incomes. That interest that you receive from it is going to go towards your taxable income. And this might line Edwin up for a later question I got, but are there ways to lend in real estate and have that money grow tax-free? Chuck, that was for you. Oh, you're muted, buddy.
I'm going to yield to Edwin on that because he's the one that has all the retirement arrangements, which might be the better person to answer that question.
Yeah, I got him lined up. So there is a way to lend using your money and let it grow tax-free, and I've got that later. It lines him up perfect. The next question is going to be for Will. Does it matter who I lend money to?
Yes, absolutely. That's a huge deciding factor for anybody on whether or not they're actually ever going to actually get their interest payments, much less get their principal back. So yes, I only lend to real estate investors secured by real property. So I do not lend on personal property, TVs, cars, collectibles. I guess technically I might lend on gold coins if you hand the gold coins over to me and I can confirm, through a bullion dealer that they are in fact gold. But no, yes, it does make a big difference. You want to vet the lender as to their experience. Some lenders do like to pull a credit report because they'd like to know that in a worst case scenario that the borrower has another out, so that selling is not their only option for the lender to get repaid, that they could maybe go and get a bank loan and refinance. So potentially looking at credit reports could be a deciding factor as to who you lend to. You really need to know what kind of experience they have in terms of, is this your first deal, your fifth deal? Is this your 50th or 100th deal? And is this a new type of deal? So somebody could have renovated 50 homes, but now they're going to go into a buying and renovating a hotel. Well, a hotel is real estate, but it's also a business. So do they have any acumen in running hotels? And you're going to be able to sell a house in, let's say, 6 months or less. You can just keep dropping the price, or pretty it up and be able to sell it. You may or may not be able to find a buyer for a hotel in 6 months. So, right. And you may or may not be able to refinance a hotel. So it all just depends. Absolutely. Who are you lending to? What is their experience? What is their, credit history if they are going to get into something that you think they may want to keep and hold on to? I have a lot of borrowers who are executing the BRRRR strategy, which stands for buy, rehab, or renovate, rent up, meaning place a tenant in there, refinance, and then repeat. Well, obviously, if the second to the last R is refinance. So if their strategy is refinance, then I need to know that they have good credit, have a banking relationship, and can get out. So yes, who you lend to and the type of due diligence you do on that borrower makes a huge difference as to the success, not of the rehab, but of the success of the loan from the lender standpoint.
Yeah, that makes total sense. The next question is for Chuck, and I might have Will chime in on this as well. What kind of returns can I expect if I'm doing private money lending to someone who's investing in real estate?
Well, my first answer or statement will be, it depends upon the deal.
Yeah.
And again, if it's an interest deal, it could be one number. If you have skin in the game, it could be another number. Every customer of yours will be different. Every project that they bring to you will be different, but I see double-digit returns almost on every project.
Yeah, it all depends on who you're dealing with. Will, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of a standard, probably. I would say there's probably an average. There is no real standard. I mean, Brandon, like you said, if somebody has money in an interest-bearing CD at 1%, if they're happy with 3%, well, then, you can negotiate that. I myself wouldn't lend money at that rate, but, I see to Chuck's numbers, I see, usually anywhere 9 to 15%, somewhere around there, but yeah, usually it's double digit, returns.
Yeah, it's all a function of, who you're dealing with, the amount of risk in the deal, and, what you're able to negotiate, what's fair to you, what would be worth it.
That's right. Yeah, it's really just in what works for both sides. There really is no standard except for what the two parties agree upon.
Yeah, perfect. My next question is for Edwin. What is the advantage of using retirement funds to invest in real estate as a private lender?
Yeah, so, there's a few big ones. I mean, there's several, but there's a few big ones, and I'll start with the one that you already kind of alluded to, which is the tax, right? The big advantage, and the reason why people think about having an IRA or having a retirement account, is because when you invest the money inside of a retirement account, it grows 100% tax protected.
Yeah.
No capital gains, like you guys were talking about earlier, right? There's no income tax on those investment gains. And so as I hear you guys talking about the returns, you compound those kinds of numbers in a tax protected environment, people will exponentially grow their wealth faster and larger than they can imagine. And I see it all the time in these accounts. And that's the reason why, right? Because we're taking the taxes out. In many cases, depending upon the type of an account they have, they can spend 100% of that income or profits generated 100% tax-free. So the tax benefits are the number one reason why people use retirement accounts to invest in transactions like private lending. A second reason that a lot of people are not aware of is asset protection. Because believe it or not, and I'm going to make a general statement here, retirement accounts are judgment proof in all 50 states. Now, it does come down to the state and what type of an account you have in many cases, but as a general rule, I can tell you is that retirement accounts are judgment proof in all 50 states. So what does that mean to someone? If you're an individual and you declared bankruptcy as an example, the assets and the income generated in your retirement account are off the table to creditors. If you had a business that went bankrupt, your assets and the income generated inside your retirement account is off the table, right? If you were tried and convicted of a criminal offense, the court can take your life, but they can't take your retirement account. Now that doesn't seem right, but that's the way it works, okay? So asset protection is a second benefit. I'll leave you with one more, right? Lucky three. There's several more, but I'll just give you one more. And that is really one of the huge opportunities is the ability to diversify. Everybody has a need to build wealth. Everybody wants to stop working the day job or running their business on a daily basis at some point. So most people, 67% of Americans over the age of 35 specifically, right, have a retirement account. And not everybody's comfortable being fully invested in the stock market where we've seen, out of control volatility. There's been record highs and they're followed by record drops. And that's a lot for folks to stomach. And so a third benefit to self-directing a retirement account into real estate is simply the ability to diversify into, like you guys are talking about, fixed rates of return that can compound very nicely. And by the way, your money is collateralized and secured at the end of the day, something you do not get in the stock market. So those are the three big reasons we see people use retirement accounts in combination with real estate.
Yeah, that's huge, especially if you're trying to protect your assets and, you're trying to create something where you just want passive income, especially those. I think a lot of people got hammered recently with the whole COVID thing and they watched their portfolios get hammered 30%. And those who went from the dreams of retiring this year quickly realized that they've got to come up with another game plan.
100%.
Right. Next question is for Will. How much money do I need to start lending?
I think that's going to be a function of the end borrower and what marketplace they are in. Mm-hmm. For example, you could probably start in many small towns in the United States with, say, $50,000, and that would be enough to, buy a small house and maybe even, fix it up and repair it. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Nashville, for the most part, you're going to need $100,000 for a pad of dirt, and mm-hmm. that doesn't even get you the house. So, if you were in a extremely high cost of living area, say in Southern California, you might need $250,000 for a pad of dirt to build a garage on. I mean, it's really location dependent. One other thing that I would add to that also is I don't generally recommend that people lend in second lien position if they are not highly astute and understand the risk of that. But with smaller amounts, you can tag along in the deal as a second lien position lender. So for example, Brandon, let's say you guys are going to buy a property for $200,000. You need $50,000 to renovate it, and you're going to resell that property for $350,000. That would be a good deal. I may come in and say, hey, I'd be comfortable, lending $200,000, but you needed the other $50,000 for renovations. Mm-hmm. You might find a private lender who has $50,000 and they'll come in and lend in a second lien position behind me. So, I mean, I've seen, people lend as little as $10,000. But generally, if it's under 100 in the Middle Tennessee area, they're probably in a second lien position. Mm-hmm. And they really need to understand the risk of being in second lien position. And that comes in both knowing and understanding the first position lender. So if I'm a first position lender and I know that there's going to be a second position lender behind me, I want to have a three-way conversation with that lender and with, say, you, Brandon, so that we are all on the same page. They understand the risk, and they also understand that there is a risk in lending in a second lien position with a hard money lender, Joe Blow. And then there's a different and usually less and mitigated risk in lending in a second lien position behind me that's worked with you guys, Brandon, for years. And, in a worst case scenario, I may have a 6-month balloon, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in terms of timing. And all of a sudden we're at 7 months and the house hasn't sold. I'm not foreclosing. That second lien position borrower doesn't have to worry about me foreclosing, possibly them getting wiped out, or having to come to the table and make me whole. And so I think that it's extremely important for them to know who they're behind if they are going to lend in a second lien position. But generally, I would say $50,000 to $100,000 get you started. Of course, a lot of projects, the individual project is going to take a lot more than that. So really just kind of depends what area you're in and whether or not that private lender wants to, take on if they require a first lien position, or if they're comfortable and can get comfortable being in a second lien position.
Yeah, and it all boils down to, you want to understand who you're dealing with, which is why it's so important to pick and choose who you're going to do business with when you're thinking about lending in this particular asset class.
Absolutely.
Great. Next question is for Edwin. What is the process of funding a real estate deal if I'm going to use my retirement funds?
Yeah, so it's a simple 3-step process. I call it my triple D process. So the first D stands for decide. The moment you decide you want to diversify, the moment you decide you want to invest in real estate, then the first step is to set up the account. That can be done within 10 to 15 minutes. It's a 3-page application. First box is name and address. Last box is signature and date. If you can get those 2 boxes right, I promise you the boxes in between are no more difficult, right? The second D in the process is deposit. So now that you have an account established, you want to deposit money in the account. How do you deposit money in the account? Well, there's a few different ways you can do it. The first way is a contribution. So if you have earned income this year, then you can take some of the money out of your savings or checking account and you deposit it in your self-directed retirement account. Second way you can invest or deposit money into a retirement account is to transfer money from an IRA at a bank or brokerage into your new self-directed IRA. You can transfer all, or you can transfer some, right? Your choice. Whatever you transfer comes over dollar for dollar, so there's no taxes, no penalties to move that money. The third way you can move money or deposit money into a self-directed retirement account is what is people really call it, they call it a rollover. We do what we call trustee to trustee transfers, but what that really refers to is, for most people, is when they're taking money from an old 401k or a 403b plan or a TSP, something that was at an employer's plan, a previous employer's plan, and they move that into a self-directed retirement account. Again, that money will come over dollar for dollar, no tax, no penalty, so long as that money is moved correctly. So that's the second D in the process. So now you have an account established, you have money in the account, and now the third D is to direct. And that's the part that makes this a truly self-directed retirement account, because it's in this step that you say to Specialized, here's what I want to invest my money in. And so there's a form for that. You send in the accompanying docs, and that's it. Money goes out the door, right? Gets wired to closing and goes over to Nick, and then the deal gets consummated, so to speak. And that's the simple 3-step process.
And is there anyone they could reach out to make that process as simplified as possible and make it easy?
Is there what? I'm sorry?
Is there someone that they could reach out to make that process simple and easy?
Yeah, that's the thing. We give everybody a single point of contact to Specialized. So that if somebody is brand new to this, they get a single point of contact, and that person will help them go through the process from beginning to end.
So you could be able to take care of them then.
Absolutely.
Perfect. My next question is for Nick. Can you explain the process of funding a deal if you were using cash? So if I'm a private lender, what would be the process to fund a deal for a real estate investor?
Yeah, so once the deal gets ready to close, we've got that final number we need from the lender. We'll send you the settlement statement to look over. We'll agree on all the numbers, all the fees, and then we'll send you our wiring instructions. Tennessee is a good fund state, so anything over $5,000 needs to be wired to us. Again, wiring it a day before closing would be great. Day of closing is fine. That's pretty much it. Just make sure the wire's in, and we're good.
Nick, should a lender ever wire money directly to the real estate investor?
I mean, if they want to do it and it not be secured, yeah. That's kind of what we're there for. We take the money and send it where it goes, and we record that deed of trust to secure it. So, no, there's no reason for them to send it to the investor directly.
Perfect.
Except the only, sometimes they do a holdback. They may be lending 200,000. We only need 150 to close, and they've got 50,000 in construction costs. Then yeah, we've already secured your full 200,000, but you've held back 50,000 that you're using for construction down the road. So yeah, I don't need any of that money. You can send that directly to the investor to pay those bills at that time because you've got the full 200,000 secured.
It's already secured and it's been attached to the property. Excellent. Nick, next question is also for you. Can the private money lender live out of the country?
Yeah, I mean, they can live wherever they want to. The only thing we do need is if when we're doing payoffs, we want to wire that money to a U.S. bank account. We can't wire it outside the United States with as much wire fraud that goes on these days. It's just too risky. Our underwriters don't allow it. So I don't care where you live, as long as you got a bank account here that's got your name on it. If Brandon Cobb's lending, I can't send a payoff to somebody else. So as long as the bank account's in your name and it's a United States bank account, you can live wherever you want to.
Okay. And last question for you, Nick. If I am a new private money lender and I'm going into this, obviously I want to use a title company like yours to secure my interest to the property. Can I use just any title company, or is the title company I use important? And I'm going to go ahead and start this off and say, yes, it's very important.
Well, I thank you for letting me be on here. Obviously, you close a lot of deals with us. We've closed a lot of deals with William as well. We're familiar with it. Not all title companies are familiar with how investor deals work. Lucky for me, I have somebody on staff, Tracy, who everybody loves, and she's very familiar with investor deals, how they work, familiar with all the hard money lenders. So we've been there. We've done it. Not to say we don't learn something new every day, but we know how this game works, and we enjoy it. So we love your business, obviously. So yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I've loved working with you guys from the get-go. You'll do a phenomenal job with customer service, which if you're turning and burning these things like we are is so important. So I've loved working with you guys. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, and
thanks.
Brandon, I would add to that. I mean, obviously, Nick and Concord have been great to work with. They communicate well, and they can foresee problems and get out in front of those. And, when you've got a closing deadline, you've got, in many cases, hard, non-refundable earnest money on the line. So, not only could you as the borrower, lose, and the investor lose your earnest money if they don't close timely, or if I don't wire in money timely, you could also lose the profit. You can lose, your good name. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So understanding and getting out well in advance in front of the problem, and foreseeing potential problems and heading those off is extremely important. And I've worked with some, let's call them challenged title companies, and they just don't quite get it. They seem to be either understaffed or maybe more in line of working with retail, buyer borrowers and don't quite understand all the nuances and the need for speed and a timely execution. So it's extremely important to work with. I like working with, I've got about 5 or 10 in Middle Tennessee that, you know, if someone were to ask me, that I would give high praises to. Concord's definitely one of them, you know, and then and I don't verbalize it, but then I probably got, you know, 5 or 10 that I'd probably prefer not to work with. I would, but yes, speed, communication, and just understanding, as Nick said, how the game works is extremely important.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I love working with you guys. Next question is for Chuck. If I'm thinking about lending in real estate, is the CPA I use important? And I'm going to start off and I'm going to say, yes, it is definitely important.
Well, you just answered it. Of course it is. And I'm echoing what Nick and Ed and William have all been saying today but let me start to say, the minute you start into a new business or investment, you need to have your partners in place. And your partners could be CPAs, attorneys, lenders, title companies, Edwin's company there, Specialized Trust Company. You need to get all those people in place. They're all very expensive people, but in the long run, they will save you a lot of money. So how do you find those people? Research, research, research. So what's the first thing you do is you talk to your friends and associates. Who are they working with? Is it a person? Is it an agency that they work with? And if they give you the name of a company, then go do your research. That's talking with people, go to their website, see what you can find out about them. As a CPA firm, do your research on the firm. Find out, do they specialize in real estate, or you don't want a firm to say, yes, we work with all clients. No, you need someone to specialize in the real estate industry. After you find that firm or that person, reach out to them, cold call them, and ask them general questions. The next step, if you find that you like this company, then you actually go in and interview them. I have a little story for you. I had a client last year that was referred to me by their banker, and they called me and they interviewed me, as well as 3 other firms. I mean, literally interviewed me to find out if I was a fit for them. Not just was I technically sharp, but did we have a meeting of the minds? You know, you can be the smartest person, but if you can't get along, you need to move on and find somebody else. So bottom line, research, 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 build that team around you.
Yeah, I personally use Chuck, and the reason is he understands taxes and he understands real estate, right? That's why I picked him, as he's in the business. I think he even owns some rental properties. So always good to partner with people who understand what you don't know every single day that you're doing this, if you're thinking about getting in there. So loved working with Chuck. He saved me a lot of money in taxes. I'll put it that way. Next question is for Edwin. If I'm looking at becoming a private lender and I'm thinking about transferring funds over from my retirement account into a self-directed IRA to lend on real estate, is the company I use to do that important? And I'm going to start and say, yes, it's very important.
I knew you were going to say that because you've said it like twice already. So you know what? Here's what I'll say. The level of when building out your team, I always tell people, you know, I'm in business and I'm building wealth, and this is a lifelong endeavor. And so I look at this almost like a marriage. Who do I want to work with over a long period of time? Do we share values? But I will tell you that competency and the support you get from any person on your team is critically important. And Brandon, I got to tell you, you've done a great job here today assembling this team, because being in this business for 23 plus years, I can't tell you how many times we've gotten calls from clients saying, hey, I'm trying to close this property in my retirement account, and the title agency says you can't do that. It's like, yeah, they're wrong, right? So then we get our attorneys on the phone with the title agency, and they go over the code, and it's like half the time they still don't get it. And it's like, look, you need competent people like Nick on your team, right? I can't tell you how many times I get questions about good CPAs. I mean, most clients we have, they say, I need a CPA who understands real estate, because they just don't have those expertise. and so you've compiled an amazing team here today, and that's the key. I think Chuck made a great point. You want people who work well with you, but you want team members that can work well with the other members of the team. And it is not uncommon that we will jump on the phone with, we're always on the phone with title agencies that our clients work with, or their CPAs, going back and forth, making sure they're setting up the correct accounts and the money they're putting in can go correctly. And so, yeah, so choosing the right custodian. I mean, this is a lifelong endeavor for you, and if you do it correctly, not only can you rescue your retirement, you can rewrite your family legacy, because there's all kinds of benefits for estate planning with retirement accounts that we didn't even get a chance to talk to. And so this is a long-term endeavor. So choosing the right company is absolutely critical. And I'll just say that, summarize it this way, that's what kind of separates Specialized, is that when I founded the company, I wanted to do more than just get a custodian, put together a custodian that says, tell us where to send the check. Because that's what most of my competitors do, according to our clients. That's one reason why we're in business, because we're big on support, education, and training, because people say, look, I want to know that I'm getting the right account. I want to know that I'm using the right accounts. I want to know that I'm doing this correctly and how the process works. And so that's what I mean by support. Those are the types of resources that we provide our clients.
Yeah, I highly recommend Edwin and his company. They do a phenomenal job. If you're thinking about getting into this and using retirement funds, please reach out to them. Everyone's contact information will be below their name here in the video, and you can reach out to them and contact them. The next question is for Will. Is the person, and I think we kind of covered this a little bit, but is the person I lend money to important?
Yeah, again, we've talked about experience, and not just in real estate in general, but in that segment of real estate. For example, I have had people come to me and say, hey, would you want to invest in my storage business? And I'm not as adept in that, and I also know that they're usually looking for longer term. But I want to know, well, what's your experience? And, I've had two people come to me before asking, and this is their first, rodeo in terms of storage. So I believe in those people. They've done well in other realms of real estate, but maybe I don't want to be the guinea pig on their new niche in real estate. So yeah, absolutely. Who you're lending to, what is their credit? What's their income? Is it a husband and wife team? Is it a team of like, for example, you, Vigif, your partners, you guys, you've got additional partners backing you, so that, for next week you can go on vacation and yet your business still runs. Worst case scenario, you guys, your personal income takes a dip for a month or two. You've got a couple of other partners, and they have additional investments or sources of income. So knowing, an LLC is not an LLC. So,
yeah,
you want to know who are the partners in that LLC, and what are their individual strengths that they bring to that business or to that real estate endeavor, as well as, what kind of additional assets, income do they bring to further solidify that individual transaction. So,
yeah, the nail on the head. It's all about who you're working with. I think
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be the common theme on this call today. The last question I'm going to answer, if you're thinking about jumping into private lending and you'd like to learn more, feel free to reach out to anyone here below. They're experts in their respective fields. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll answer whatever questions I can. If it's a question that I can't answer legally, I'm going to refer you to one of these experts down below. But I'm happy to hop on a call and answer any questions that I can for you, so that you can make the best informed decision. And hey, if you like this call today, let us know if there was something that we did not cover. Put it in the comment box below. We'll see. We might be doing more of these in the future, depending on how it goes. So if there's something we did not cover today, put it in the comment box. Let us know, and we look forward to potentially working with you guys and helping you guys out. hey, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate you guys showing up today. I think this has been fantastic. And, I continue to look forward to working with each and every one of you.